Okay, return and payment of income taxes. So a tax return is a document. It is actually a sworn statement or declaration which includes each attachments whereby the taxpayer discloses the nature and extent of his tax liability by formally making a report of his income and the deductions for the taxable year involved in the prescribed income tax form. So ito yung pinipilapan every time you pay a tax. That is the tax return. So for income taxes, who are the individuals required to file? Every Filipino citizens residing in the Philippines are required to file their income tax return. Every Filipino citizen residing outside the Philippines on his income from sources within the Philippines, you need to file the income tax return. Aliens residing in the Philippines on his income from sources within the Philippines. And every non-resident citizen engaged in trade or business in the Philippines must file an income tax return. And there are individuals who are not required to file the income tax return. They are those earning purely compensation income whose taxable income does not exceed 250,000 because they are exempted from income tax. And an individual whose income tax has been correctly withheld and has only one employer for the taxable year, because they are allowed to file a substituted filing. So if you are an employee and you are not earning income from any other source, only from your sweldo or compensation or wages, and you have only one employer for the entire taxable year, and your income tax has been correctly withheld by your employer, then you are not anymore required to file an income tax return. Okay, you can avail of the substituted filing by signing your form 2316 or the report of your income tax withheld, which is being issued by your employer. You just affix your signature there as a substituted filing requirement. Any individual whose sole income has been subjected to final withholding tax. So if you are an individual and your sole income is subjected to final withholding tax, maybe you have billions of pesos in the bank and you are just earning income monthly from interest income therein, and that interest income is subjected already to final withholding tax, you're not anymore required to file an income tax return. A minimum wage earner is also not required to file, and he can avail of the substituted filing. Husband and wife are required to file their income tax return jointly. If it is impracticable, they may file separately. For corporations, domestic and resident foreign corporations are required to file 3 quarterly returns and 1 final or adjustment return. So every quarter, domestic and resident foreign corporation are required to file their quarterly income tax return and pay the corresponding quarterly returns, quarterly income tax, I mean. And then the 4th return, which is the final return, they have to show the filing and the payment of the 3 previous quarterly payments, and deduct it from the tax payable in the final return. Overpayments may be refunded, or you can ask the Bureau of Internal Revenue to issue a tax credit certificate, or you can elect to carry over the excess payment to the succeeding taxable year. So if there are overpayments this year, you can deduct that to the succeeding year. And the carryover option is only taken once, and it is revocable. So if you have opted to carry it over, that is irrevocable. For corporations which is in the process of dissolution, the corporation must file a return, and the corporation must ask for a certificate of tax clearance from BIR, submit it to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and then it is only then that the SEC will issue a certificate of dissolution. For general professional partnership, despite being exempted, the GPP must file a return so that the Bureau of Internal Revenue will have a record of the income earned by the general professional partnership. This will be used later on to verify the individual returns filed by the individual partners. So in the Philippines, we have this pay as you file system. So as you file the return, as you file the document, you have to pay the tax for the said return. Hindi pwede file ka ng return ngayon, bukas mo na bayaran. Hindi pwede yun. Pay as you file system. And in the Philippines, most internal revenue taxes are self-assessing, meaning you'll be the ones declaring your income in the tax return, then you compute it there. If you do not know how to compute it, then you let an accountant do it for you. But just the same, you have to declare it in the tax return, and as you file that return, you have to pay the tax payable indicated therein. And you can actually pay in installment. If the income tax due is in excess of 2,000, you can pay half of it at the time you file the return, and the second half will be paid on or before October 15 of that year. So those are the important points in the payment and return of income taxes.